java.lang.class object at heap memory with the metadata of the loaded class A, where the metadata of the loaded class A is nothing but what? What is the metadata of the loaded class A? Understand it clearly. The metadata of the loaded class is what there? Name of the class. Then what next one? Access modifiers of the class, metadata of the superclass, metadata of the implemented interfaces, all variables metadata, all methods metadata, all constructors metadata. Every information about our loaded class A, we are going to maintain in the form of what? The class object. In the next, if JVM required any information about this particular class, directly JVM will in contact with what there? JVM will be in contact with the respective class object only. It will not go to what there? Dot class file every time. Directly JVM will go to what there? Class object. From where only able to get the required details. It will not go to what there? Dot class file. This is what is going to be happen internally inside our content. Yes, sir. All of you are getting it or not? Right, sir. Now let us give the total points here. Once we complete this one, then I will move forward here clearly. All right, sir. Good. All right, sir. Now observe carefully. If we execute dot class dot for name method, JVM will perform the following actions internally. JVM will take the provided class name from class dot for name method. Class dot for name method. Sir, all of you are okay now? Try to put more concentration what I'm telling there. All right, sir. This is point number one. Point number two is like what there? JVM will search for the required dot class file. JVM will search for the required dot class file at the current location, comma, at Java predefined library. The total Java predefined library is available in the form of rt.jar file. rt.jar file is available in the JDK and lib or maybe JRE lib. In both the cases, it might be available, right? It will search for it, rt.jar file. And at the locations provided by the class path environment variable. Class path environment variable. This is completed. Okay, fine. If the required dot class file, does not exist at all the above locations, then the JVM will provide an exception. Then the JVM will provide an exception like java.lang.class not found exception. Class not found exception. Then what next one here? If the required dot class file, exists at either of the above locations, then the JVM will not raise any exception, and JVM will load the dot class file. JVM will load the dot class file. Dot class file provided bytecode to the memory. This is one point here. Observe carefully. At the time of loading bytecode to the memory, JVM will execute static blocks. JVM will execute static block if it is available in the respective class. Okay, of course, if static block is not available, nothing is going to be executed. If static block is available, then only that block will be executed at the time of loading the class bytecode. Why I am specifying this particular point here? As it is, the static block execution is required for me in the JDBC programs. In JDBC, I need the static block execution while loading driver class bytecode. That's why I'm including these points here inside this. Right, sir. Then after that, after loading the class bytecode to the memory, JVM will create java.lang.class object. JVM will load what this? JVM will create java.lang.class object with the metadata of the loaded class. Okay, where the metadata includes access modifiers of the class, Next one is what there? Class name, the respective class name, superclass metadata, implemented interfaces metadata. After that, declared variables metadata, declared methods metadata, declared variables methods, constructors metadata, and so on and so on and so on. If you have any other data inside your class, that every details are maintained in the form of like what there? Java.lang.class object. That's it. Now this is the total internal concept of like what there? Class.forName method. This is very important topic in a prerequisite. Why? Because in JDBC, I'm going to prepare the JDBC programs by using class.forName only. Without using class.forName method, I may not prepare JDBC programs. Why? Because in JDBC, I need to load the driver class bytecode to the memory. In order to register the driver, I have to load driver class bytecode. Only loading class bytecode is sufficient, not to create any object for the loaded class. Because of that reason, I need to use what there? Class.forName method. And we need to understand its internal concept also. This is the total internal concept of like what there? Class.forName method. Clear? All of you are getting clarity on this point? No response, guys. Can I move forward? All right, sir. Good. After this, already we understood this points here. The total program is also be existed here. Leave this points here. Next one is what there. After this, now here we have to understand new instance method. This is not immediately required inside the JDBC. This is required in servlets and JSPs. This new instance method is required in servlets and JSPs. But in general, we are going to discuss class.forName method, new instance method as a pair. That's why I've included this one. Not required inside the JDBC, but it is mandatory in what the servlets. If you want to understand the internals of the servlets clearly. Yes, sir. All of you are okay or not? All right. Now let's move on to the punch. All of you observe carefully. New instance method. The next one here. New instance method. Clearly. All of you observe carefully. Now tell me, all of you know what is the purpose of class.forName method? What is the purpose of class.forName method? Come on, immediately we have to get thought. Just to load class bytecode to the memory. That's it. Not to create an object, just to load class bytecode to the memory. We are using what there? Class.forName method. Got it or not? Fine. In Java applications, if we load a class bytecode to the memory, if you load a class bytecode to the memory by using class.forName method, if you load class bytecode to the memory by using class.forName method, and if you want to, okay, fine. All right, sir. Otherwise, I'm going to give the information there. In Java applications, if you load class bytecode to the memory by using class.forName method, and if you want to create an object for the loaded class, and if you want to create an object for the loaded bytecode for the loaded class, then we have to use the following method from java.lang.class. I'm asking one more question to all of you. Try to answer for it now. What is the common and default superclass for every Java class in Java? Java.lang. Object. Why I'm asking this question? There, some people are thinking Java.lang.class is a common and default superclass for every class. No. not java.lang.class. This is what there, java.lang.object. Object is also a class. Class is also a class in Java. Java.lang.object is also a class. It's a common and default superclass for every Java class. Java.lang.class is also a class. Okay, the java.lang.class object is able to manage metadata of each and every loaded class. But java.lang.object class is able to provide 11 mandatory methods for each and every class, common methods for each and every class. Okay, fine. Leave this one. All right. So what's the point here? I'm telling you know, in Java applications, if you load a class bytes code to the memory by using class.forName method, and if you want to create an object for the loaded class, then we have to use the following method from java.lang.class. What is this method here? We have to use there public object new instance throws initialization exception. What is this exception here? We are providing there no initialization exception. Right, sir. Where is this advanced Java? Right, yeah, Java, right, yeah. Right, sir. Public object new instance throws initialization exception, comma, initialization exception, comma, illegal access exception. Two exceptions are provided by this new instance method. What are the three exceptions? No, initialization exception, comma, illegal access exception. By seeing this throws keyword in the methods, no, in the methods prototype, immediately we have to get one point in our mind. If I use this method in the main method, that main method must handle these exceptions. That main method must handle these exceptions, either by using throws keyword again or by using try catch finally. The try catch finally concept we will understand in the future here, not immediately. But we have to handle that exception if we are using the respective content. That's okay, fine. Observe carefully. Public object new instance throws initialization exception. All right, sir. Now, example here I want to provide you. Now try to understand it clearly. Everybody, put more concentration here. What I am telling to you. Class A, here we have taken inside this class A static block class loading. This is what their constructor object creating. Now just we are creating objects not by using this new keyword. Now first of all here we provided what the class.forName of fully qualified name of the respective class A we provided. Class.forName method, what it is providing there, just it is executing. That means it is loading class bytes code to the memory. By loading class bytes code to the memory, it is providing output is what there, class loading output we are getting. Right, sir? What we are executing there? Only static block. Have we executed this constructor? No, not executed constructor. Why? Because we have not created object for the respective class K. Okay, fine. After this, now here, what I want to do there, object obj is equal to, right, before that, one more point, class.forName method will create a class object or not? Come on, class.forName method will create class object or not? Not only that, this class.forName method will return the generated class reference variable. Will return the generated class reference variable. See this one here, what I'm telling to you. All right, sir. After loading class bytes code to the memory, JVM will create java.lang.class object with the metadata of the loaded class, where the metadata includes like this here we provided. One more point here I'm telling to you. Observe carefully. All right, sir. Now here, that next point is like what I'm telling to you after this. Now the point is what there. After creating java.lang.class object, JVM will return the generated java.lang.class object, reference value from class.forName method. From this class.forName method, automatically that reference value will be written. Automatically the generated reference value will be written. That's it. This is what exactly the final point here we have to understand. Similarly, what I'm telling to you, class.forName method is able to return java.lang.class object. Class CLS is equal to, like this here we can provide. But still, if you're thinking I want to see at least one metadata of the loaded class, if you want to see that, what I'm telling to you, system.out.println of, now CLS dot get name method here we can call. Automatically name of class here we are able to get. What's the name of the class now? fully qualified name here we are able to get. Errors here we are having. What errors here we are getting there? Now try to check this. All right, now this is an error here. Okay, fine. Now let me compile this. Class loading, what we are getting there? com.durgasoft.test.a. That means name of the class here. That means fully qualified name of the respective class. Of course, there we are able to get superclass name also. Just metadata. Example point of view I'm showing to you. Try to understand it. CLS dot get a superclass. If we provide this dot get name method here, if we call there, automatically here we are able to get superclass metadata. What is the superclass for class here? Object class. There we are able to get what there? Java.lang. What is that one? Object class here we are getting. So metadata of the classes here we are getting it or not? Total metadata of the class here we are getting. But I don't require these two concepts now. Immediately observe carefully. Finally, by using class.forName method, we are able to load class bytecode to the memory. We are able to get class object with respect to the bytecode loading. Now I want to create an object. I want to create an object for it. So object obj is equal to cls dot new instance method. Object obj is equal to cls dot new instance method. Now the line is struck off or not? The striking off in the sense is a deprecated method, outdated method, but still support is available. In the future releases, this method may be removed. In the future releases, this method may be removed. That's the meaning of the strike off inside the Eclipse IDE. But still that method support is available. Otherwise, you may get compilation error. Otherwise, you are able to get what there? Compilation error. Now see this one. What output we are getting there? Object to creating output we are getting. What is the meaning of it now? Internally construct is executed or not? Construct is executed in the sense of creating object or not? The generated object reference value is available to what there? Object to obj. Why? Because return type of the new instance method is what there? Object only. Internally it is creating object for class A only. But class A object reference value is written in the form of what type now? Object type here now. But if you want to get exactly A class object reference value, there we have to perform typecasting. Object is a superclass. Superclass to subtype here we have to cast. There is nothing but what the downcasting here we have to perform. But up to the part is not required here. Just we can understand now. Class dot new instance method, CLS dot new instance method is creating object for the loaded class. That generated object will be written in the form of what type now? Object type here. So finally here we are getting output for class loading. Then what next one can know? Object creating. Got it or not? Right, sir. Now this is the program here what we provided now. Output here I want to provide, that is program here I want to provide. Try to understand it. Here also be some internal points are available for us. Right, sir. It's okay. All of you understand it now. After completion of this point here, then internal flow of execution here I'm telling to you. Observe carefully. In the above program, when we execute CLS dot new instance method, JVM will perform the following actions. In the above program, when we execute CLS dot new instance method, JVM will perform the following actions. Observe carefully. What actions are performed here? First one. Now listen carefully. What JVM will do there? Now tell me, new instance method we are calling on which reference variable? Class reference variable. The class reference variable is referring what? Java.lang.class object. What it contains? Come on, Java.lang.class object. What it contains? Metadata of the loaded class. That means loaded class information is available inside the CLS object or not? Over the CLS only we are calling new instance method or not? So what I am telling there, JVM will go to the java.lang.class object. JVM will go to the java.lang.class object and search for the non-private and zero argument constructor in the loaded class metadata. In the loaded class metadata. That's it. Understand this point, what I've given? JVM will go to the java.lang class object, will go to the java.lang class object, go inside the java.lang class object, which was created from class.forName method, where search for the non-private and zero argument constructor in the loaded class metadata. That means for class A, it will search for non-private and zero argument constructor. This is JVM internal implementation or new instance method internal functionality. Fine. Now observe carefully. If the required constructor is identified, if the required constructor is identified in the loaded class, then JVM will execute the constructor, JVM will execute the constructor, and JVM will create an object for the loaded class directly. Right, sir. Now this is a point here we have to understand. First of all, what is the point I am telling you? If the required constructor is identified in the loaded class, the JVM, if the required constructor is identified in the loaded class, then the JVM will execute the constructor and JVM will create an object for the loaded class directly. When it is a case no, when the required constructor, that means non-private and zero argument constructor is available in the loaded class, JVM will execute it and JVM will create an object for the loaded class. That point here we understood. Next one is, after this, what is the next point here I'm telling to you? Object is created, it's okay, fine. Then we are able to achieve our requirement. But before that, if the loaded class doesn't have, if the loaded class doesn't have the non-private and zero argument constructor, then JVM will raise an exception. JVM will raise an exception. What exception that JVM is able to raise now? Like below. What is that one here actually? What exception that JVM is able to raise now? Now understand it clearly, all of you know. If the loaded class contains a private constructor, or maybe I'm telling to you a parameterized constructor. If the loaded class doesn't have the non-private and zero argument constructor, then JVM will raise an exception like if the loaded class contains a parameterized constructor, then JVM will raise an exception. Like what about this exception that JVM is able to raise there? Java.lang. All of you understand it clearly? What we are getting there? Java.lang. Instantiation exception. Then the JVM will raise an exception. Like what about these exceptions are now tell me? Java.lang. Now get the illegal access exception. Two exceptions here we are able to get overall. Right, sir? What are the two exceptions? No, if the loaded class contains parameters constructor, not zero argument constructor, where JVM will raise an exception like what there? Instantiation exception. If the loaded class contains a private constructor, then the JVM will raise an exception like what? Java.lang. Illegal access exception. Understand it clearly? What I'm telling you? That's okay, fine. This is point number 3. Here we can identify now. Finally, where we are going to get these exceptions here that we understood. If constructor is right constructor, a non-private and zero argument constructor, if you are having there, then JVM will not raise an exception. Directly JVM will create an object for the loaded class. JVM will return that object reference value in the form of object type. JVM will create an object for the loaded class directly, and JVM will return the generated object from the generated object from new instance method, from the new instance method. Right, sir. Next points are what there? If the loaded class doesn't have the non-private and zero argument constructor, then JVM will raise an exception. All the cases here are shown clearly. Now let's see this one here. The programming here, I'm going to provide the programmatic part. Up to this one here, we are getting output, but I want to show both the cases here. Try to observe carefully. Inside this program, what I am telling now, my constructor is what there into I. That means what I provided here, parameter is a constructor. But my JVM required what constructor? JVM required what constructor? Zero argument constructor. But here what we provided here, parameter is a constructor. Let's see this, what we are able to get there. Definitely we are able to get an exception. What is that exception here we are getting there? Understand it clearly. Right, sir. Exception thread main java.lang.initialization exception A. That exception here we are getting clear. Understand it now. Right, so now this is the program what we are having. Right, sir. Now next one is another point here I'm telling you. For example, in my program, my construct is zero argument constructor only, but here we provided like what there private. My construct is zero argument construct only, but here I provided what there private constructor here I provided. Then what is going to be happen? Now try to execute this one. Java, the exception thread main java.lang. Illegal access exception. Tester class cannot access a member of class A with a modifier private. With a modifier private cannot tester class cannot access the members of like what there class A. This is another one. Program is ready. Now here we have to provide this exception data. Java.lang. Illegal access exception. Right, sir. Now class com.durgasoft.test.test cannot access a member of class com.durgasoft.test.a with a modifier private. This is what we are getting clearly. Leave this one here. This is completed here. So both the exceptions here we completed. Am I right or not? For example, I have a question now. Understand my question here. Observe carefully. For example, my constructor is private up to now. If it is a private, illegal access exception. If it is not zero argument constructor, if it is parameter constructor, initialization exception. For example, if I provide both the parameter and as well as private, if I provide both the parameter and private to my constructor, both the private and as well as what their parameters of constructor, then what we are able to get? Definitely one exception here we are able to get. But now tell me, because of these two things, no, how many exceptions are possible from this line? No, how many exceptions are possible here? Two exceptions are possible or not? What are the two exceptions which are possible here? What are the two exceptions which are possible here? No, one is what their initialization exception. Other one is what their illegal access exception. Got my point or not? Two exceptions are possible here in this case now. But here my question is, in Java at a time only one exception will be raised, not two exceptions. In Java at a time only one exception will be raised, not two exceptions. Got it or not? Now out of these two exceptions, initialization exception and illegal access exception, out of these two exceptions, which exception would be raised by this JVM in the case of like new instance method? What exception would be raised by this new instance method here? What is it now? Illegal access exception. Perfect. Illegal access exception here we are able to get. As a illegal access exception. No? First priority will be given for parameter checking. After that only, if it is not matched, after that only it will come for what their access modifier. In this case, in this particular context, understand it clearly. Exception will come only one exception at a time. But which exception that we have to understand? First priority is given for what their parameter checking. So it is not like what their matched parameter. So that's why we are getting what their initialization exception here we are getting. Understand it clearly? This also be one program here we have to understand. Okay. So output here I want to provide that output is like what I'm telling to you. It's like exception in thread main java.lang dot initialization exception here we are getting. Right. So now this one, this is completed. So overall new instance method is going to be completed. But you may get one question here. Okay, sir, we discussed this point here. Class.forName method understood, and the location of this class.forName method is also we understood. Why? Because in JDBC we have to load the driver. To load the driver, class bytecode we have to use what the class.forName method. That's okay, fine. But where I'm going to use this new instance method in general, where we are able to provide new instance method. If we come for this particular point, answer is very clear. In JDBC applications, not only in JDBC, no, in the case of servlets, not in JDBC, directly I'm telling there. In servlets, we are going to use this new instance method explicit, not explicitly. Internally, we are going to use it. But how we are going to use this method internally? Simple example I'm telling you, observe carefully. First of all, tell me what is servlet? Tell me, sir, what is servlet? Name itself is giving clarity. Server plus let. Server plus less let. What is it? Servlet. Server side let. Server side code. Server side program. Servlet is what there. Strictly speaking, server side applet. Server side applet is called what there? Servlet. That's the actual meaning. Am I right or not? Okay. Now observe carefully. Servlet is a normal Java program at server side. In general, we are writing Java program without having client server architecture. Similarly, at server side, I'm going to write Java program. The Java program at server side is called as what? Servlet. Okay, now tell me, how J2SE programs are executed? Who is executing our normal Java programs? When I provide Java space test and command prompt, who is executing our Java program test class now? JVM is executing our test class. Am I right or not? But server side programs are not executed by JVM. Server side programs are executed by servers. Server side programs are executed by whom? Servers. Tomcat server, WebLogic server, JBoss server, Wildfly server, Glassfish server. The servers are executing our server side programs. Yes, sir, got it or not? Okay, fine. How JVM is executing our normal J2SE program? How JVM is executing J2SE program? Now tell me. How JVM is executing our J2SE program? By calling main method or not? Sorry, you're not giving response properly. Now I'm thinking about it. You're not having any knowledge in core Java. Basic questions only I'm asking there. Who is executing Java program? JVM. How JVM is executing Java program? By calling main method. That I'm expecting that, but you're not responded properly. In two cases, audience are not responded. One case is what they're getting boring totally. Second case is what they're not understanding anything. I think second case is right case, right? Or first case, no? Tell me, if it is boring, admission cancel. Right, sir. This much of important topic I'm discussing with you, but you are getting boring, right? Otherwise, tomorrow onwards, I'll wear a mask. By seeing this face, we are getting boring, right? I'll wear a mask. What mask you require? Superstar Rajinikanth, I'll keep it now. Right, sir. See, if you give response, then it will be a good thing. I'm able to give more content. If you are giving less response, no, my battery is also be down. If both of us batteries are down, you know already what is going to be happen. Okay, all of you ready? Now tell me, who is executing Java program? JVM. Okay, how JVM is executing Java program? By executing main method, by calling main method. Nice. Similarly, at server side, we have a program that is servlet. But servlets are not executed by JVM. Servlets are executed by servers. So it's very clear that JVM is not executing our server side program. Main method is not required. Damn sure main method is not available. Okay, without having main method, without having JVM, how servers are executing our server side programs? No. Listen, all of you know how server side programs are executed by servers without having JVM, without having main method. What is its approach? If we talk about this one, its approach is main method is not available, so JVM is not required. But servers are executing our server side program by following life cycle methods of the servlet. By following what their life cycle methods of the servlet. By following life cycle execution of the servlet only, the server side programs are going to be executed. It may be servlet, it may be JSPs, it may be EJPs, whatever it may be. All server side components must be executed by servers by following their life cycle methods only. Remember it. This we have to remember permanently. Up to core Java only, we are going to talk about JVM and main methods. Once we cross this core Java, everywhere we are going to talk about what? Server side program. Servers are executing their server side program by following their life cycle methods. That's it. Core Java program, JVM, main method. Server side programs, servers, and the life cycle methods. Yes, sir, got it or not? Now let's move on to the servlet life cycle methods. Our servlet life cycle activities. If you observe this clearly, the servlet activity, servlet life cycle activities are like what there? Servlet loading. Almost I'm talking about main concept of the servlet. Servlet life cycle, servlet execution. I'm telling there 5 phases are available in the life cycle for servlets. What are the 5 phases? No, first one is what the servlet loading, servlet initiation, servlet initialization, request processing, servlet deinitiation. Tell me, what are the 5 things now? Servlet loading, servlet initiation, servlet initialization, request processing, servlet deinitiation. Finish, your servlets is completed. Nothing is there inside the servlet if you understand these 5 steps now. In core Java, JVM main method. But in the case of servlets, no, server and 5 methods. 5 actions. Servlet loading, servlet initiation, servlet initialization, request processing, servlet deinitiation. 5 steps now. Out of these 5 steps, what is the first one? Servlet loading. Means that loading servlet class bytecode to the memory. Loading servlet class bytecode to the memory. To perform this step, internally, server must use class.forName method. To perform this servlet loading, means that servlet class bytecode loading. For the purpose, internally, server will use a method. What is that method it will use internally? Class.forName method. Got it or not? Okay. Internally, class.forName method will be used to load servlet class bytecode. That's okay. Completed. After loading servlet class bytecode to the memory, what is the second life cycle action? No. What is the second life cycle action? No. Servlet initiation. Servlet initiation. What is the meaning of servlet initiation? Creating object for the servlet class. Creating object for the servlet class. Already bytecode is loaded. For the bytecode loaded, for the loaded bytecode, we have to create an object. We have to create an object for the loaded bytecode. To create an object for the loaded bytecode, there we have to use new instance method. To create object for the loaded class, we have to use what method here? No, new instance method. So in a servlet loading, we have to use class.forName method to create an object for the loaded servlet class. That is for the sake of performing servlet initiation. Internally, we have to use what method here? Class dot, that means new instance method there we have to use. Got it or not? Forget about this servlet. Forget about this servlet. Next one is what there? EJB is a server side component. Right, sir. Now, EJB is a server side component. EJB loading, EJB initiation and executing business logic, and EJB is deinitiation. They are the 4 steps now. EJB loading, EJB initiation, of course EJB is initialization, executing business logic, EJB is deinitiation. They are the various steps now. EJB loading, what is the meaning of it now? Loading EJB class bytecode to the memory. So there we are going to use what? Class.forName method. Next step is what there? EJB is initiation, creating object for the EJB's class now. Enter by Java bean class. Understand my point clearly? So to create an object for the loaded class, again internally what we are going to use there, class dot, that means new instance method there we have to use. Yes, sir, got it or not? So class dot for name method, loading purpose. New instance method is for what purpose there? Creating object for the loaded class. So these two things we are going to use in every server-side component lifecycle. These are exactly the utilizations of what? Class dot for name method and what next one here? New instance method. That's it. Now just let me give that information that at least we need to have some awareness. Why we are discussing about this class dot for name method and new instance method? Because of these two reasons only clearly. Right, sir. Now let me give a small note here. Note 1. What is that note 1 here? I'm telling there. In JDBC, we have to use driver. In JDBC, we have to use driver class. We have to use driver class to map Java representations with the database representations. As we are having Java representations and database representations separately. To map Java to to map Java to database to Java representations, we are using what there? Driver. We have to use driver class to map Java representations with the database representations. In JDBC applications, we have to load and register driver. We have to load and register driver. Right. For this, we have to load driver class bytecode to the memory. We have to load driver class bytecode to the memory. Now understand it clearly. In this context, to load driver class bytecode to the memory, we have to use class dot for name method. We have to use what there? Class dot for name method. Right, sir. This is what we completed. This is note 1. Next one is what there? Note 2. Next one is what there? Note 2. Observe carefully, all of you know. In all server-side components execution, servers will execute the servers must perform loading and instantiation phases. Must perform loading and instantiation phases. What phases there? Loading and instantiation phases. For each and every server-side components as part of their life cycle, execution. Right, son. Here to perform server-side components loading, servers will use class dot for name method. Observe carefully. Here to perform server-side components loading, servers will use class dot for name method. Okay. Here to perform server-side components instantiation, servers will use new instance method. Servers will use what method here? New instance method. So these are like what there? The utilizations of like what? Class dot for name method and what next one here? New instance method. All of you are getting clarity or not? Right, sir. I think you should not get any doubt even if I use class dot for name method and new instance method in the future. Am I right or not? You should not get any doubt about these concepts here. In the future, if I use these two concepts now. Why? Because with the clear-cut information here, I'm discussing with you regarding this class dot for name method and new instance method. All of finally now tell me here, I'm asking one question to you. Now tell me what is the purpose of class dot for name method? Just to load class bytecode to the memory without creating object. What is the purpose of new instance method? creating object for the loaded class. Creating object for what there? Loaded class. That's it. Only these two things are sufficient for me. Right, sir. Leave this one. But utilization areas also are given. In JDBC, we have to use driver. The driver must be loaded. For that purpose, we have to use class dot for name method. Answer my point clearly. Next one is what there. And before that, in the case of this, like what there? In the case of this server side components, no, two activities we must perform by the servers. First one is loading. Second one is what there? Initialization. For loading purpose, we have to use what there? Class dot for name method. For initialization purpose, we have to use what there? New instance method. Okay, leave these two concepts here. Next one is after this, in the prerequisite here, class dot for name and new instance method, these two things are completed. Now tell me, in a prerequisite, what topics we required here? We have to understand there. Right, sir. Already given some prerequisite topic there. Yeah, classes, abstract class and interface are complete. Static already completed. Class dot for name, new instance method is completed. Next one is what there? Exception handling related concepts. Throws and a try catch finally. And a try with resources. These many things here we have to perform. Okay. Of course, then to understand all these points, exception handling is required, but no need to worry for it. No need to think more about this exception handling. Directly, I'm going to give the required information. Try to put more concentration. Just directly required. What I require the concepts here up to that, I'll provide you so that we are moving forward. Right. Now, let's understand the point here. Simple definitions. First of all, what exactly the meaning of exception? Why? Because before going to start this throws keyword and all these things, we need to understand what exactly the meaning of exception. What is the meaning of exception? I think, and today at 10 o'clock, I discussed about this definition. I discussed about definitions, right? Even that much of lengthy definitions also be required. A simple and straightforward definition are required to move on to the advanced Java. Exception is an error occurred at runtime causes abnormal termination to the applications. Simple. Or more short form, exception is a runtime error causes abnormal termination. Exception is what there? Runtime error causes abnormal termination to the exception. Sorry, abnormal termination to the Java application. A simple and short definition here I have given. But if you want to listen that actual definition of the exception, I can give it. Today only I given. I think most of you understood this if I speak out. Okay. I'm going to give that information. Try to understand it now. Exception is an unexpected event occurred at runtime of the application, which may be provided by the users while entering dynamic input, which may be provided by the database engines while executing SQL queries in JDBC applications, which may be provided by the networks when we establish the connection between local machine and remote machine at the time of connection establishment inside the distributed applications, and so on and so on and so on, causes abnormal terminations to the applications. That is simple definition. Of course, perfect definition for exception. But simple, if you want to shorten this, no need to specify that cases. Simple points. Exception is a runtime error causes abnormal termination to the applications. Got or not? But these abnormal terminations of the applications may provide serious problems in our applications. What serious problems here we are able to get? No, your local operating system may be crashed out, your network may be hang out, and your maybe server may be down, or your database may be collapsed in our enterprise application. These many serious problems here we are able to get. To overcome these serious problems, we have to handle the exceptions properly. To avoid these serious problems, we have to handle the exceptions properly. All of you get my point or not? Okay, that's nice. We have to handle the exceptions properly. But how we are going to handle the exceptions properly? How it is possible to handle the exceptions properly? To handle the exceptions properly, we have to use throws keyword, or we have to use try catch finally. Two approaches are available to handle the exceptions. What are the two approaches? No, first one is what there, throws keyword, and second one is what there, try catch finally. Right, sir. All of you observe carefully what I am telling to you. First of all, simple definition for exception. Exception is a runtime error causes abnormal termination to the applications. Right, sir? Exception is a runtime error causes abnormal termination to the applications. Right, sir. Understand it clearly? What next one here? In Java applications, exceptions may provide the following serious problems. What problems here already we understood there? May provide the following serious problems. One is what there? All right, sir. Operating system crashed out, OS crashing. Next one is what there? After this, network hanging. All right, sir. Network hanging situation. Then after this, all right, sir. Database collapse, server down the server, and so on. So many problems here we are able to get. All right, sir. It's okay. Then what next one here I'm telling there? To overcome all the above problems, we have to handle the exceptions properly. Proper exception handling is required. Now I'm going to give the clarity how we are going to handle the exceptions. Again, I'm telling that if it is core Java class, this information is not like this. We have to discuss more. But now this is an advanced Java. To move on to the advanced Java, basic awareness is sufficient. No need to have this much of discussion. In core Java classes, I will explore more. But inside the advanced Java, required information only here we are understanding. Right, sir. All of you observe carefully. There are two ways to handle the exceptions. In Java. There are two ways to handle the exceptions in Java. What are the two ways of handling exceptions inside the Java? If you observe this, the very first one by using throws keyword, and second one is what there by using try catch finally. By using throws keyword, and second one is what there by using try catch finally. By using throws keyword, and second one is what there by using try catch finally. All right, now observe carefully. Now here we have to understand what there throws keyword. What exactly the purpose of this throws keyword here? Not to throw keyword. Throw keyword is different. Throws keyword is different. Of course, this is one of the important interview questions. Throw keyword and throws keyword. What is the difference between throw and throws? S is the difference, right? Throw and throws. What is there? Only S is the difference, right? But don't think like this. Very good difference available. Anyway, then for your understanding purpose, I'm telling to you, throw keyword can be used to raise the exception, generate the exception. Throws keyword can be used to handle the exceptions. I get my point or not? Throws is for what? Handling. Throw is for what? Generate the exception. Only these 2 points here we can understand. In core Java, I'll give more information here. Right, sir. So the main purpose of the throws keyword is to bypass the generated exception. From the present method to the caller method. From the present method to the caller. Definitely, in the present method we got an exception, but this method is called by some other method. So in this method I don't want to handle it. I want to handle it at the caller method. So I need to bypass this exception from present method to the caller method. Sir, all of you get my point or not? Okay, then immediately what we have to do? We have to use throws exception in the method prototype. Automatically, the generated exception will be throws out from present method to the caller method. That's the purpose of like what there throws. Right. So the main purpose of the throws keyword is to bypass the generated exception from the present method to the caller method. Right. Where we are going to use this throws keyword. And one more thing before that, for what purpose we are bypassing exception from present method to the caller method? In order to handle the exception. Got it or not? All right, sir. Understand it clearly? In general, might be what is going to be happen at my home there. One simple example. My daughter, son 1, son 2, overall 3 members. Definitely they are doing some kind of work inside the home. Work in the sense not the proper work there. Total disturbance Total kitchen is totally in a different manner. It's going to be available. So whenever they are creating some serious problem there in a home, if I call all three members there, first of all, I'll ask to my daughter, hey, why you are doing this type of mistake there? What she used to say to me, no, myself is not, I'm not doing any mistake there. Only this person is doing that mistake. She bypassed that problem to my son one. Then I asked to my son, what you are doing? Why you are doing this type of mistake there? No, I'm not at all. I'm innocent. I don't know anything about it. No. Then the child, the last one, is doing this problem there. When I asked him, what are you saying there? Nothing. He's not going to give any information. Just seriously will look at me. No. At least give response there. No response. Seriously looking at me. What happened? I thought of it might be in the next minute, if I ask one more question there, he will cry. Okay. By the time I understood that, okay, these are the kids, then definitely kids will do some kind of entertainment inside the class, inside the home, right? That we have to bypass the problem here, right? See, observe carefully. Here the problem is bypassed from one person to another person. The problem is bypassed from one person to another person. There, we are going to use what keyword? Throws keyword. My daughter uses throws keyword to my son one. My son one is giving throws keyword to what? Son two. But what son two is doing? No, throws keyword to me only. Who is responsible for it? No. If I am asking this question, they are doing like that. But if my home ministry is asking the same question, no, what my last son is giving information there? No, dad is doing that everything. I don't know anything about it. Getting it? No. They are using throws keyword clearly. The same thing I am telling you. No. So here also, throws keyword is able to bypass an exception from present method to the caller method. Which method is calling from present? Which method is calling present method? To that method, we are bypassing the problem. Understand my point clearly? So here the point is what the main purpose of the throws keyword is to bypass the generate exception from the present method to the caller method in order to handle the exception. Why we are bypassing this exception there? To handling purpose only. I don't want to handle that exception in the present method. I don't want to handle that exception in the present method. But I want to hand over that exception to the caller method in order to handle that exception. I get my point or not? Either we have to handle or bypass it to somebody else. Somebody else will handle it. But without handling the exception, we should not keep your code like this. Definitely, you must handle that exception. To handle that exception, either we have to take the responsibility or bypass that responsibility to whom? To the caller. Understand it clearly? Okay, fine. This is completed. But where we are going to use this throws keyword? In general, we will use throws keyword in the method prototype. That means in the method declaration part, not inside the body. In the body, we are going to use throw keyword, not throws keyword. Throws keyword will be used where there? In the method prototype. Throws keyword we are able to use what there? We will use the throws keyword in the method prototype, not inside the method body. Not inside the method body. Everybody understand this point clearly. This is the meaning of like what there? Throws keyword. Okay, fine. If I give an example, there we are able to understand it clearly. Now understand this example. I'm not going to use IDE for this example. I'm going to use what there? Edit plus. All of you observe carefully how I'm going to prepare this example. Listen, all of you listen carefully. Class A here I've taken. Void add method here I've taken. Add method calls what there? Concat method. Now here we have taken void concat method. Inside this concat method, throw, not throws. Throw in the sense raising an exception. Now I'm going to raise an exception. New IO exception. IO exception is a checked exception. It will be identified at compilation time itself. Okay, don't worry. Compile time we are able to see some exception related content. Now my requirement is I want to access concat method. If you want to access concat method, then access add method. If you want to access add method, I need to create object for class A or not? A small a is equal to new a dot add method here we have to provide. Now tell me, sir, what is the method chain? That means executing that method sequence. No, main method is calling add method. Add method is calling concat method. Inside the concat method, we got an exception. Now tell me, exactly at which line we are getting exception here? Exactly at which line we are getting exception? What is that line number? Sixth line in edit plus we are getting that line number. At the sixth line we are getting an exception. Now let me save this one. Let me compile this program. Just compilation is sufficient. No need to execute the program. Java C space test.java. Cannot find the symbol IO. Then why? Because IO exception is available in java.io.star. Import java.io.star. Why? Because it's available in java.io package only. All right. So now Java C space test.java. Now see this one. We are getting an exception. Where we are getting exceptions are now, tell me, at line number 7. Why line number 7? Here import statement I provided. Now exception we got at which line there? 7th line. Okay. We got an exception. What is that exception, sir? Unreported exception, IO exception. Okay. Up to that it's okay. It's an unreported exception. Actually exceptions are coming at runtime only, but compiler can identify this exception. That's why this is called a checked exception, of course. Unreported exception. What next one can now tell me? Must be caught or declared to be thrown. Either we can catch it or we can throw it. Either we can catch it or we can throw it. That is the solution is asking there. There we are getting exception here. This line here we are getting an exception. Okay. At the 7th line we got an exception at present. Nice. My requirement is what? Inside the concat method, I don't want to handle it. Inside the concat method, I don't want to handle it. I want to handle this at inside the caller of this concat method. In the caller of the concat method, I want to access it. Who is calling concat method? Come on, who is calling concat method? Add method is calling concat method. Inside this add method, there is a method called concat call. Concat method call is there. To this location, I want to bypass my exception. To this location, I want to bypass this exception. Further, Babas, here we have to use throws. Along with throws, we have to write exception name. That exception name should be same as the generate exception or superclass of the generate exception. Now, what exception here we are getting there? IO exception here we are getting. Either we have to specify IO exception or superclass of the IO exception here we have to specify. Simple point I am telling to you. IO exception is a child exception class for exception. Exception is a super exception class. For exception, throwable is another exception class. 3 classes: throwable, exception, IO exception. Throwable is a topmost superclass. Exception is the next child class. IO exception is the next child class. Now here, along with throws keyword, we can use what there? Either same as the generate exception, super of the generate exception. Along with throws keyword, I can use the IO exception, or maybe I can use what there? Exception, or maybe I can use what there? Throwable also. Anything here we can use. Okay, now observe carefully, all of you know. When I compiled this program previously, at which line I got that exception description? No, at 7th line. Now observe carefully. At 7th line, we got this exception. If I bypass this exception, automatically this exception will go to the method call. Where is that method call now? Come on, inside the add method. Inside the add method, at which location method call is available? Come on, at line number 4, we are getting that method call or not? Right, so now let me check this clearly. What I am telling you, Java C space tester.java. Now tell me where we are getting that exception. No, line number 4 means that exception is bypassed from line number 7 to line number 4 or not. That is because of only throws keyword or not. Because of throws keyword only, that exception is bypassed to what there from line number 7 to line number 4 here. Bypassed or not? Okay, this is one point here. But still at line number 4 also, inside this add method also, I don't want to handle this exception. I want to handle this exception by bypassing that exception to the caller of add method. Who is the caller of add method? Now tell me. Come on, who is the caller of add method? Main method. Inside this main method, I want to handle it. If you want to handle it inside the main method, then what I have to do? Come on, what I have to do? Inside the add method, we need to write what? Throws. I need to provide either same as the generate exception or superclass of the generate exception. This time I want to use superclass of the generate exception. What is the superclass here? No, exception. Now tell me, if I compile this code, where my compiler display the exception details? No. At which line it is able to display that exception details? No. At which line able to display exception details? No. Inside the add method. Inside the add method, at which line here? No. 13th line here it is able to provide. Now let me compile this one. What we are able to get there? Java C space tester.java. At which line we are getting this exception here? No. 13th line here we are getting exception. That's okay, fine. But my requirement is even inside the main method also, I don't want to handle it. I want to bypass to the caller of the add method. I want to bypass this to the caller of the add method. There we have to use throws keyword. Along with throws keyword, either we can use the generate exception or we can use superclass of the generate exception. Now here, what exception is available? Exception is available, not IO exception. Exception is available. Why? Because here we throws out what exception? No, exception. That exception will come to this location. There we have to use what there? Throwable. There we have to use what there? Throwable. Now tell me, if I compile this code, at which run we are able to get exception? No. First that exception is bypassed from 7th line to 4th line. 4th line to what there? 13th line. From 13th line to caller of this main method. Who is calling main method? Tell me, who is calling main method? JVM. JVM is calling main method. No. So to the JVM we are bypassing exception or not? Because of that reason, no error message at compilation time. No error message at what time here? Compilation time. Compilation is success. Compilation is success. But when we execute this program there, JVM will get that exception. JVM is able to provide that exception details with all 3 lines. JVM will display that exception details with the track set, with the tracking of all 3 lines now. Now observe carefully that exception thread means java.io exception at the 3 lines, 7th line, 4th line, 13th line. Now tell me, what is the purpose of this throws keyword by seeing this example? Come on, what is the purpose of this throws keyword? To bypass the generated exception from present method to the caller method in order to handle that exception. That is the total information about like what their exception. That means throws keyword. But at one side, I'm telling one more point. Throws keyword is not handling the exception really. Throws keyword is not really handling the exception. What it is doing now? Giving handling responsibility to somebody else. Throws keyword is not handling that exception. Simply, it is bypassing exception to somebody else. No. Sir, got it or not? But my requirement is what? I want to handle the exceptions really the location where exception is generated. At a line number 3, we got an exception, 4 or 3. There itself, I want to handle that exception. Really, I want to handle the exception. I don't want to bypass it. I want to handle the exception. There we are getting that exception. Further purpose, we have to use try catch finally. To handle that exception, we have to use what there? Try catch finally. That we are going to understand tomorrow. That's it. Tomorrow, at what time we have to come there? Same regular slot. Tomorrow we are going to have session there. Tomorrow we are going to understand the try catch finally. I'm telling you, don't miss the tomorrow's class. In every JDBC program, I'm going to use either throws keyword or try catch finally. Throws keyword we understood, but effectively I'm going to use try catch finally. After completion of try catch finally, try with resources. Another point I'm going to discuss that, but don't miss the concepts on tomorrow. Tomorrow is very, very important. Next topic, dynamic input approaches is also very, very important. These 2 topics are mandated to go for what there, even first JDBC program. So without failure, we have to complete it. Once if we completed them, then I'll move on to the JDBC directly. That's it. Thank you. Thanks a lot. We'll meet on tomorrow. Tomorrow, same schedule. Yeah. One minute.